welcome to the March the 28th Saturday daily vlog. I'm pleased it's the weekend. We decided we'd try and maintain a working weekends free sort of pattern. So we got to let the kids sleep in and I stayed in bed until 6:45, which is pretty big for me. And we just had a nice peaceful day. I had a dog walk by myself, which was absolute bliss. And it was nice and sunny this morning. It's kind of gone grey and freezing cold now, so I'm glad I got out when I did. What I wanted to talk to you about briefly today was a couple of things that I have been reading. In an attempt to try and find a quiet room, I've retreated to my bedroom, and you can see my stack of books over here. But I wanted to talk to you about knitting related books, one that I've just finished and one that I'm about a third of the way through. First of all, I wanted to talk to you about this. I'm sure you've seen this. This has been all over Instagram, and this is a book called This Golden Fleece by Esther Rutter, and it's published by Cartref Press, which is www.granter.com. The hardcover is price marked at £16.99. I know you can get it on Kindle as well. And just to be clear, I was contacted by Cartref and sent a free copy of this book in return for reviewing it. I did give it a quick mention on my podcast, but I don't think I ever got round to doing a proper review, so I thought I'd do that today. It's a lovely book, really well produced. On the cover, if I hold it a bit closer, can you see that the fields are knitting stitches and the text is in golden writing, which is nice. Pretty hard back in sort of very dark grey with again gold on the spine. And if I just read you a little bit from the inside of the flap. A history of Britain's long love affair with wool through a year of knitting garments from around the British Isles, from a captivating new voice in British non-fiction. Over the course of a year, Esther Rutter, who grew up on a sheep farm in Suffolk and learned to spin, weave and knit as a child, travels the length of the British Isles to tell the story of wool's long history here and its influence on our landscape and culture. From Shetland to the Channel Islands, she unearths fascinating histories of communities whose lives were shaped by wool, among them the mill workers of the border counties, the stocking knitters of Wales, and the inhabitants of the fishing villages of Britain's coast. She finds tradition and innovation intermingling in today's knitwear industries and in the hands of the many amateur knitters that she meets. And along the way, she explores wool's rich culture by crafting culturally significant garments, among them 19th century patterned gloves, Highland walking socks, a delicate hat, and a heavyweight fisherman's jumper, reminding us of the value of craft and our intimate relationship with wool. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed this book. I tend to read in bed just before I go to sleep, and I like the fact that this is split. There's 12 chapters, each of which covers a different part of the country and a different garment, and I like that it just takes me a couple of nights to get through each chapter. So she covers Dentdale gloves, proper ganzis, revolutionary knitting, Highland kilts and stockings, a not so itsy bitsy bikini, carding, combing and cricket, Vikings, socks and the Great Yorkshire llama, knit frocks, guernseys and jerseys, Shetland stitches, Monmouth caps and funeral stockings, haps, shawls and new arrivals, and a time of gifts. It has some colour photographs in the middle as well, some nice colour plates which are nice to look at, and each chapter starts with an illustration of what she's knitting in the chapter. So yeah, I can thoroughly recommend this. It's well researched without being heavy. There's lots of little details that as knitters will really resonate with us, and I like that she puts some of her personal and family memories into it as well. I seem to remember that she did an interview on the BBC Radio 4, I think it was Woman's Hour. So if I can, I will try and find that interview and link it down below. So if you don't want to buy the book or whatever, you can at least have a listen. It's quite an interesting interview. You can probably also find it through the BBC Sounds app as well if you download that app, so I'll try and link that down below. So yeah, thoroughly recommend. Why not? Next up is a book I'm currently reading that's been on my Goodreads list for quite a while. I'm terrible at remembering what books I want to read. I used to take a photo of them on my phone at the front cover, and then I'd have to skim all the way through my gallery roll to try and find them, but then I got told about Goodreads, so I've made myself a bit of a list on there, and there's quite a lot of books about either specifically about knitting or about craft and making and things like that. And for my birthday, my mother-in-law bought me a Waterstones voucher. Waterstones is a big chain bookshop in the UK. So I treated myself to 2 books, one of which is about spinning, and I'll talk about that another time. And the other one is this one. It's called Women's Work, The First 20,000 Years, Women, Cloth and Society in Early Times. And this is written by Elizabeth Wayland Barber. And there's the front cover. I can't remember how much this cost me, but it says on the back $18.95 US dollars and $24.95 Canadian dollars. So this is classed as women's study / archaeology. For anyone that doesn't know, I studied medieval history and archaeology as an undergraduate, and this is reasonably technical. It covers classical history, it covers archaeological dig artifacts and techniques, as well as drawing from the writings of the time, so classical literature and things like that. It was published, when was it first published? Quite a while ago. (1994). There you go. So it is talking about cloth and textiles as opposed to knitting. I don't think it will ever cover knitting because I don't think the book goes that far forward. And again, it's not a light read, so you've got to be prepared to put some work into it, but it is accessible, and I would recommend it very much. So it covers prehistoric textiles basically. So just for an example, the first chapter, called A Tradition with a Reason, why textiles were traditionally women's work, and that was a fascinating topic. It covers the Paleolithic, Neolithic, Bronze Age, Egypt, although I haven't got that far yet, the Mycenaeans, Late Bronze and Iron Age. There are some hand-drawn illustrations in here. Some of them are quite clear. This is a chapter I've been reading at the moment about the Minoans. And then some of them are sort of photographs of things which, you know, I couldn't really decipher that. But if you are interested in the anthropology and the archaeology behind the origins of textiles, this is a really, really good read. And like I said, it's scholarly. I think she was, she teaches at Occidental College in California, has also published prehistoric textiles and some Egyptology related things. I'll read you the back. 20,000 years ago, women were making and wearing the first clothing created from spun fibres. In fact, right up to the Industrial Revolution, the fibre arts were an enormous economic force belonging primarily to women. Despite the great toil required in making cloth and clothing, most books on ancient history and economics have no information on them. The extreme perishability of what women produced is largely responsible for this omission, a gap that leaves out virtually half the picture of prehistoric and early historic cultures. But today, new discoveries about the textile arts are revealing women's vital role in pre-industrial societies. Elizabeth Wayland Barber has drawn from data gathered by the most sophisticated new archaeological methods she herself helped to fashion, to show that women were a powerful economic force in the ancient and early modern worlds with their own industry, fabric. So there we go. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Again, the chapter system suits me nicely, and it's really hitting my archaeology and history funny bones. I'm really enjoying getting back into it. And yeah, they discuss artefacts they've dug up, wall paintings, depictions of women on vases and crockery and things like that, archaeological excavations. If you're familiar with the little Venus figures that have been found over a lot of Europe, they discuss those as well. So if you're interested in the nitty-gritty, you would really enjoy this book. So there we go. Those are my 2 recommended reads for today. This Golden Fleece by Esther Rutter and Women's Work by Elizabeth Wayland Barber. Happy reading.